The greatest debate when it comes to gaming is whether it's better to use a console or a gaming PC to get the best experience. And die-hard fans of either side will tell you constantly why theirs is the better choice. PC master race and all that. But when it comes to gaming in 2024, is it really all that cut and dry as to which is better? Not as much as you might think. From building epic powerhouse PC gaming setups to simpler console gaming setups, or even just using a laptop or a handheld, we're going to take a look today at the similarities and differences to help you make a decision on what's best for you. Let's get into it. Now, I have spent a lot of time gaming over the years, ever since I was a kid. And I've been fortunate enough to get into a position to build an epic gaming room like this where I can choose pretty much any way I want to game. I could hop on and play on my PC, kick back with a few games on the PS5 or Xbox, chill on my laptop, or put my feet up with a handheld. But not everyone has that luxury, and sometimes it depends which way of gaming is great for you. Hopefully this video will help you make that decision, and of course you can let me know any thoughts you have down in the comments. So first, let's start off by taking a look at the hardware itself. Now, consoles are pretty simple compared to gaming PCs in that what you buy is what you get until the next generation of consoles come out years down the line. Sure, they are basically the same thing with a CPU, graphics card, etc. built in, but in terms of upgradability, there's not really much you can do aside from adding extra storage. Whereas with a gaming PC, you can upgrade it in just about every way, from better CPUs, GPUs, motherboard, storage, even download more RAM. And with the new parts coming out all the time, the PC you buy could end up being completely different in a matter of months. Of course, that can be an attractive prospect given that it will allow you to run games in higher settings with better performance, which is always a bonus. But it's also incredibly expensive, with the graphics card alone sometimes ending up more than double the price of an entire console. So obviously budget is going to be a major factor on that front, but also if you're not overly well versed in PC tech and parts, it can be a complete maze finding the best performing or best price to performance parts that are going to be worth upgrading. And then there's realizing that to upgrade one part, you'll need to upgrade another part to match performance or to make sure that it's still compatible. In contrast, a console is super simple. Buy it and that hardware will be good for years. So really, there are both advantages and disadvantages in this department. It just depends on which one you prefer. Sticking with the hardware, you also have to factor in that consoles are actually built specifically to play games. That is their only purpose. Whereas a PC, whether it's labeled as a gaming PC or not, is a multi-purpose machine capable of running a multitude of programs and tasks, with gaming being just one of those. And that means that game developers are able to better utilize hardware within a console and push it to its full potential in areas that they're not quite able to do with a PC. A game might end up running beautifully on one person's PC, but performing terribly on somebody else's because of the way they've got their PC set up, or because it's running completely different hardware. Games have to account for so many different bits of hardware from a multitude of different brands and be able to run on all of them in as strong a way as possible. But with a console, you know straight away a game is going to run virtually the same on every single one out of that particular model. It's simple and much easier to work with, and that's why you know that more often than not, a console game is going to run nice and smoothly in high quality. Whereas on PC, you may end up with incredible quality games above what a console is capable of, but also some serious letdowns and poorly made ports of games that weren't made to run on PC hardware. Now, a major factor people consider between consoles and PC gaming is the level of customization and performance that is possible. Latest gen consoles are capable of running up to 4K in mainly 30 or 60 FPS, or in some cases 120 FPS. But that's where it maxes out in terms of performance for a console. You also don't really get any kind of customization options in terms of graphics or performance either. In some cases, you can change the frame rate in exchange for performance using preset modes, but that's normally about it. With a gaming PC, however, you can definitely do a lot more. Depending on the hardware you're using in your PC, games can run well up past the 120 FPS marker of a console. And these days we see brands pushing the limits of what's possible with outlandish 500Hz monitors and ridiculously fast response times for that near instantaneous gameplay. You can boot up a game and change all kinds of video and graphics settings to get exactly what you want. Whether you're looking for the highest quality by bumping the resolution up to 4K and maxing out all of the graphics settings, or you value performance and frame rate so you switch down to 1080p and lower the graphics settings for smoother gameplay. You can basically tailor it to exactly what you want. This is definitely a huge plus for most people. However, again, if you're not overly knowledgeable about these things, it can be an extra overcomplicated and unnecessary step before gaming. And that leads me on to my next point, how easy it actually is to game. Whether you're coming in from a long day of work or school, or you just fancy a nice relaxing gaming session, with a console, it's as simple as it gets. Turn on the console, boot up the game you want to play, and away you go, unless you have an annoying update file to install. But with a PC, things can be a bit more hassle. There's the process of booting up the PC, closing all of the startup apps that you forgot to disable, opening up the game launchers, making sure you have the latest graphics drivers installed. Then getting into the games themselves and heading into the settings to optimize performance or graphics based on what you want, before finally hitting play and kicking back with some game. Don't get me wrong, doing all of that can enable you to have a pretty epic gaming experience compared to what you might be able to do on a console. But sometimes you just don't feel like all of that hassle and you want to slump down on the sofa and mindlessly play some games with minimal effort. And that's where a console has you absolutely covered. Are you noticing a theme here? PC gaming and console gaming are both great in so many ways. Now, another big thing between not only console and PC, but even amongst consoles themselves, is exclusive games. PlayStation, Xbox, and PC have a ton of games which you can play across all platforms, but of course, each do also have their own exclusives that you can't play on certain devices. This has been a major arguing point between users of different consoles and PCs for a long time, but again, in 2024, it's really not that deep anymore. We are seeing a lot more games being widely available than ever before, with Xbox Games Pass available on PC, so you can play basically all Xbox exclusives on your PC. And even previously exclusive PlayStation IPs like Spider-Man, Horizon, The Last of Us, and more are becoming available on PC as well. And some of these games do actually run better on PC than on console because they can take advantage of not having the same hardware limitations. But sometimes these PC ports can actually end up far worse than the console version because they were made to utilize that console hardware and are not optimized for a PC. And going back, yes, each platform does still have its own exclusive games and will continue to do so for a long time. But which is better is not actually a point of fact. That is purely down to personal preference on what games you personally prefer to play. So let's get on to a point I briefly mentioned earlier but affects a lot of people's choice on how they can game, and that is price. Console gaming is and will likely always be cheaper and more accessible to people than PC gaming. Consoles have been becoming more expensive over the years, but the modern generation of consoles, which can easily play games in 4K up to 120 FPS in some cases, and they cost £400 to £500 max. Maybe chuck in another 100 or so if you want to upgrade the storage, which is completely optional, but for PC gaming, it's going to set you back a lot more than that. Yes, you can build or buy a gaming PC for around the same price as a console, but in most cases this would not be recommended because the performance when gaming is going to be very poor and likely perform significantly worse than a console. You can either go down the route of upgrading that PC with new parts over time, but again, it's going to wind up costing more money for parts on top of the money spent on the original PC and can wind up racking up very quickly. Or you can just buy a higher end PC from the get-go, but again, this is going to be much more expensive than a console. Yes, you are paying for quality, and is the gaming experience on a £3,000 PC going to be better than on a console? Immeasurably yes. But how many of you out there are able to afford to do that right now compared to being able to drop £400 on a console? You have to weigh up what you can afford against what you want to be able to do, and for a lot of people, that's why a console is a much more attractive prospect. So to sum up then, does PC versus console really matter in 2024? From a hardware perspective, PC PCs are capable of doing so much more than a console, but are nowhere near as optimized for gaming as a console is. So sometimes games can end up performing a lot better on a PC, but on the flip side, they can also sometimes end up worse than they perform on a console. But when they do get it right, you can certainly get a much higher quality experience on a PC. However, it's not always worth the amount of hassle that you have to go through setting up a PC to run games how you like compared to the ease of just kicking back with some console gaming. These days you can enjoy most of the console exclusive games on a PC anyway, so if that's the reason you were picking up a console, it doesn't really matter anymore. PC will always be more expensive than console, sometimes massively so, but it will also have a much better path of upgradability and customization, so it's a trade-off of which you want more. So if you wanted me to give you an overall summary of which is better between PC and console, there is no answer. PC fans will tell you PC, console fans will tell you console. But when it comes to fact, both have their pros and cons, and it's just about navigating through the points mentioned in this video and working out what it is that you want. I game on console and PC regularly, and I love them both. Which I choose depends entirely on how I'm feeling on a certain time or day. Of course, I'm always curious to know what you guys think, so feel free to let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video and found it helpful, don't forget to drop a like to help push it out to more tech and gaming fans like you. You can subscribe to the channel if you're interested in more gaming and tech related content, and thank you guys for watching. I'll see you all in the next video. See you later.